Hello, my beautiful people. My name is Anothando Molosi, your girl. Sanmonani, Molweni, Hoyena, Molweni Betun. Tonight, I want to talk about things that you need to know before you buy a property or when you want to buy a property. I've had a couple of people reaching out to me on my inboxes on social media asking me, I know I want to buy a house, please advise me, what things do I need to know, what can you tell me? So I've got, I think, more than 10 people who have asked me for such advices. I don't know anything, I don't know everything, but I tried to answer them based on my experience and based on the things that I know, and the things that I wish I knew before buying a property. So I've told them what I know, and I just decided then to just come here and shoot this video for you guys in case maybe there are more other people who would like to purchase properties but they don't know where to start, especially if it's your first property. Even if it's your second property, you never know like everything up front. I'm still learning myself, so yeah, let's get to it. When I was sitting down like 5 minutes before I started shooting this video, I then decided to write down so that I don't forget anything. I decided to write down for you guys like the things that were on my mind at the time. So as I was just writing down what I think I want to say or I want to share with you guys, I then decided to classify this video into two. The first tips will be general tips when you want to buy a property, and then the second tips will be finance related tips when you want to buy a property. Okay, so I won't dwell much guys on anything else, but yeah, let's get to general. The first tip that I want to give to you before you buy a property or when you are looking to buy a property, one, it's the neighborhood where you're gonna be buying your property. You need to look around and check the surroundings of where you are buying or where you want to buy your property. You need to look for things like safety. You need to look for things like the possibility for the property value to grow in the area where you want to buy. You need to look for things like where I'm buying, is there no possibility for land invasions and things like that. I know you won't know it all up front, but just those things that you can see that are obvious, you need to look for those things. And then you need to look for, like, your surroundings are so important. You need to look for, are there any schools around, are there any malls around, how far are they, if they're not so around, how accessible are they, because you need to, okay, obviously if you're working on a certain side of the town, you'd want to buy a property on that side, but that is not really so important because you might get a promotion and have to move to the other side of the town. That won't stop you, like you can't keep buying houses every time you changing work offices. But yeah, things like schools, the malls around, those things, they help boost your property value at times. And also, should you decide one day that, you know what, I no longer want to stay here, I want to go and stay elsewhere, but I don't want to sell my house, I want to rent it out. Those things, when you looking for a property to rent, or personally when I'm looking for such, I check things like how far is this from a public transport. Is the transport accessible or easily accessible from where I'll be staying? And also, are there any malls around? Are there any schools around? Because if you want to rent and you have children, obviously you want to check, you want to get a place where there are schools around, you understand? So that's one thing that I want to say to you guys. And then another thing is that take your time. Like when you are buying a property, just try to take your time. Don't rush for anything. Don't rush. Take your time, because if you're rushing, you might find yourself in a lot of troubles because you were rushing. You won't even read the contracts properly. You won't even do proper viewings and all that. And then the third one is, please do viewings or search for as much as you can, so that you can get like maybe 2 or 3 options which you can choose from. And then once you get those options, then go and do viewings. At least get options and then go and do viewings. Like, go with someone when you're going to do viewings. Go with either your partner, your friend, your sister, whoever that is available to go with you to do the viewings. Because sometimes you might be excited, you get to this house, it's everything that I need. You don't want to waste time, you want to sign the offer to purchase right there and there. Don't do it. When you get there to do the viewing, if you have an offer to purchase, take it with you and go home, and then at least send it the following day or later that night, but go through it properly. Because if you're rushing, then you might miss some things. And the reason why I'm saying you need to do viewings, you need to do proper inspections of that property that you're buying. Obviously you can't see everything at once, but you need to do proper inspections. You need to check for cracks, you need to check for any possible leak signs. If you see any signs of water inside the house, you need to ask questions. You need to ask for confirmation whether is there a leak, and will the seller be fixing that leak before they sell the property to you, you know. And then another thing that I want to say to you guys is, you need to look for COCs. Certificates of compliances are very much important. You need to get one for electricity, you need to get one for plumbing. I know in some places where there's gases as well, they give you those. So you need to ask your agent for all the COCs of the property that you're buying. So that is very important. Another thing that you need to look for, building plans, guys. You need to check if the property that you want to buy has building plans, and are they valid. Because some people, they go and make some changes into the structures without getting the approved building plan, you know. And then I know at some point I've seen an article about someone who has extended the property, and then now they were fined by the city where they're staying in, because the house does not have proper or approved building plans, you know. So you need to make sure that the property that you're buying has building plans. I've heard in some cases, but I don't know, I've never seen one, that the inspectors from the city or the municipality around you, they do come and demolish. But I'm speaking under correction. You need to find out, and to your local municipality and from your agent, because I don't know what they do besides the fine. I don't know what else they do when they find you with the property that does not have building plans. Which then leads to my next point, which is, you need to read your contract, which in this case, it's the offer to purchase. You need to read those documents. I think the other one, it's conditions, what, because if the seller writes in there that I'm selling this property to Anothando without approved building plans, and I just signed because I'm in a hurry to get a property, then I might just sign that, and once something comes back then I'm at fault. I have to pay for whatever fine that the local municipality will charge me because I have a house that does not have building plans. And at that time, I didn't even build the house. I just bought the house from someone, but that decided to do the renovations, extend the house, or whatever the case is, without having first to get approved building plans. So that is so important, guys. What else do I have on the general? um okay, another thing, there are two items. I think it's a good thing that I've written down this. Another thing that you need to look for, you need to first decide what type of a property do you want. Do you want a standalone house? Do you want a house in a complex where there's homeowners association? There are two things here, because when I first bought the house, I bought it in a complex because of safety. I'm a girl, I was alone, and I was young. So I needed a secured place where I knew there's an electric fence, there are cameras, there are boom gates, there are security guys at the gate. No one just comes in and out. For me, that was so important because I was a girl, like staying alone. So you guys know, especially in Cape Town. So for me, that was the thing. I do understand though that there are people who want standalone houses. I would also love to stay in a standalone house, which I'm staying in by the way now. But because of a couple of reasons, there are advantages and disadvantages, because as much as you staying in a secure place, but when there's homeowners associations, you can't do as you please. You can't change paint sometimes because the paint has to be uniform in a place where you're staying in. You can't just extend, so you need to find out about those things. You can't just extend and decide I want to have an upstairs, whereas there are, like, your houses has to be uniform. So there are a couple of restrictions, and also you can't just have parties. You can't just, there are a lot of things, there are rules and regulations. So you need to look at those things before you choose the type of a property you want to buy. And then another thing that I want you to look at also when you're buying for a property. Now, obviously, when you're buying your house, you might have a house that was owned by another person. So what you're looking for, you don't want to buy a house where you hate everything about it, but just for the sake of owning a property. You don't want to do that. You want to check on things. Okay, smaller things like paint, it's something you can change, but you want to check on big things. Do I like this? Is the bedroom good enough? Is it big enough? Is it what I want? Does it have ensuite? Does it have a lot of things? Is the kitchen even good enough? Will I have to change the kitchen? If you don't mind changing those things afterwards, then it's fine, because I know houses where people just did renovations, they've got beautiful kitchens, which is the thing for me. Hey, so you want to look at those things. You want to try and look for a house that is at least as close as possible to the dream house or the ideal house that you'd like to own. So those are the things that you need to look for in the general. Right, good. And then now I'm gonna move to finance part of buying the house. Right, first things first, you need to do what is called a pre-qualification. That is to check how much you can qualify for, or how much house would you be able to buy. You understand? So that you can go to your bank, call your banker, they can do it for you. You just have to fill in like some forms to like write your expenses and all those things, and then they're gonna tell you, okay, based on the information that we have, this is so much you can qualify for. Let's say they say you qualify for a 2 million rand house. Okay, sure. So that can be done by either your bank or you can even speak to the agent that is selling the property. They do have a finance department within their offices, and they do help with those kind of things. So you need to make sure that you get that information, because you don't want to be wasting your time looking for houses, wasting your petrol going to viewings for the house that you can't even afford, or for a house that you think, I think I'm affording a 500,000 house, but you settling just for less, but it's not what you want, and then only to find out that you qualify for a 2 million house. At the same time, we don't want to go around searching for 3 million houses only to find out at the end, dude, you don't qualify for this house, right? So a pre-qualification is so important, so that you don't waste your time, and you don't waste the time for the agents that will be helping you in choosing the property that you want. Okay, that's point number one. Point number two that I want to make is, it's the price of the property versus your affordability, right? Let's say you get a 2 million house, and then can you afford it, right? Because now you're deciding, okay, I want this kind of a house, this is how much I qualify for, then this is the price range, so you need to work around the price range that you can afford. When you're working around, hence I said price versus affordability, you might qualify, or the bank might qualify you for a 2 million rand house, but you have to look at the affordability as well. But that goes together with the monthly repayments. If they say you need to pay 20,000 rand on a monthly basis, the installment on that house, will you be able to pay it? So that is the affordability that I'm talking about. And also on that monthly repayment, what I want to say is, you don't want to mix yourself out. What I mean about that is, you don't want to, let's say the house is like 2 million, you're paying 20,000 rands per month. You don't want to go, and you know yourself that, okay, I only have 20,000 rand that I've kept aside that I can use to pay the bond. You don't want to, like, how can I say this? You don't want to mix yourself out, and just because you have that 20,000, and now you must go and hang yourself on a 20,000 monthly repayment kind of a house. No, because you need to take into consideration that there are still municipal services that you need to pay, right? So those costs you need to take into account. There are still municipal rates for that property that you need to pay. There's electricity that you will need to pay, and depending on the type of property that you've chosen, if you're staying in a complex, probably there are levies that you're gonna need to pay, and those prices, they do differ. So you need to find out from the agent, when you are looking for a property, how much are the rates for this property that I want to buy, and how much are the levies, if there are any levies, so those are the things that you pay on a monthly basis. So if you only have 20,000 rands, and then now there are these extras that you didn't know about, then that might affect you. So you need to know upfront and then decide. So if you have 20,000, you might want to go down and say, okay, I want to pay like 15,000 rands on a monthly basis on the installment of the house, and then the other cost will cover the other things. Or you might want to pay, depending on how much those things are. I'm just making examples. Unless you do have other means to pay for those extras, then that's okay. And then what else do I want to talk about? Okay, you need to also know that there are registration fees when you're buying a house. I know the like complexes or the new developments where they're saying no registration fees, no transfer fees. Okay, sharp. If that's the case, then that's good for you. But if that is not communicated upfront, you must know that there are registration fees that you need to pay upfront, and you need to ask your agent when you want to buy that property. They need to give you a quotation for the registration fees. I think that is done by the bank. So you need to get like an idea of how much those registration fees are. Secondly, there are transfer costs. Let's say you're buying a house that was owned by someone else. So now the house has to be transferred from their name to your name. And that process is done by lawyers or attorneys Same applies with the registration. So you need to pay transfer fees as well. So you need to know how much those prices will be. And one thing you need to know, some of the banks or the bond originators, they do pay for that, but some of them they don't. So you might need to cough that money out, cash out of your pocket, right? And then you need to know if there's a deposit on the property that you want to buy, and if there is a deposit, how much do they want you to pay upfront as a deposit for that property, right? And then another thing, obviously now I spoke about the affordability and everything, you need to apply in all the banks, right? So normally the agents, they've got the finance department, the agencies, so they will do all that information they will do all that applications for you. But you need to check if there's a specific bank that they don't do applications for. Let's say, for instance, they're saying, okay, we can do all the I-ones, but we don't do applications on this specific bank. You need to take it to yourself and go to that bank and do your applications for yourself. The reason why I'm saying preferably is to do the applications on all the banks and bond originators that are there. Reason for that is that you are in good chance, you have good chances of negotiating should you get higher interest rates from the other banks, instead of just going to one bank that is your personal bank and then they give you high interest rate, but you've got nothing to compare because you only went to one bank, right? You've got nothing to lose, and that won't dent your credit score as long as that is done like once. And you must only do that, guys, preferably when you know that this is their house, this is what I want, because you don't want to be, let's say, viewing for 6 months. You don't want to be going every month, you're putting an offer for this one, every month you're doing applications on the banks. That will come back and dent your credit score, right? So you need to do that. And when the agents they come back to you and say, or the finance person who's dealing with that, they come back to you and say, oh, okay, you've got this bank upside saying they're offering you 3% or 5% on the interest rate. Just do ask for all of them. Like, ask for all the banks. They must give you, upside is giving you this, and this is the interest rate they've given you. And also you need to know if that interest rate, is it fixed, is it variable, and what is the term? Is it over 20 years, is it over 30 years? Because they might come back to you and say, oh, upside is cheaper, but they don't tell you that the term is longer. It's actually 30 years, and this one is expensive because the term is over 20 years. So you need to look at those things. The term must be the same so that you compare the same thing. When you compare bank A with bank B, you must compare the same thing, that over the 30-year period, this bank is giving me so much, this bank is giving me so much. And they sometimes have conditions that if you move your salary to us, then we're gonna go down with so much percentage. So you need to know all that information. So you need to speak to that person that is helping you with the finance applications, right? And then another thing that you need to know is that you need to negotiate. That is my favorite part of all. You need to negotiate. You need to negotiate 2 times. You need to negotiate with the seller and put in an offer and see if they would accept it. But you can discuss that up front with the seller and the agent and say, okay, I would like to put in an offer of this much. Is it okay? Right. And then you need to also negotiate with the banks, with the interest rate that they're giving you. You can. You've got nothing to lose. If they say no, then it's fine. Like, you've got nothing to lose. But you need to negotiate, because what I found out over the years is that we tend not to negotiate. And if you don't negotiate, no one is gonna come back to you and say, oh, I thought you were going to negotiate. I've upped my price by like 50,000, thinking that I'm gonna give some room for negotiations. In most cases they will tell you, okay, even the agents, you speak to them, because that's the point of communication for you, and then you say, okay, what are the chances of negotiating, or of the seller going down from the price that they've set for this house, and they're gonna tell you if there's a possibility or not, you know. But if they say no, you also have to decide whether you really want the house, because if you do, then if they say no, it's fine, you continue with the process. But if you feel like, no, I didn't like it, then you move on, right? So you need to negotiate. That's another thing when it comes to finances. What else? Okay, guys, I think that's all. For me personally, when the banks don't force you to pay the deposit, I still have to like I still have to think about that. I don't know if there's an advantage in you paying a deposit or not. Personally, okay, I know it will bring your the principal debt down, but there's still some research that I'm still going to do. Whether does it help for you to like pay the deposit upfront, or you paying later? But that's something for another day. But guys, the most important thing that you need to do, you need to read your contracts. Read your contract properly when you need to buy a house, because you're gonna be in that house forever, and you don't want to buy a house with some faults, and that the seller is written with their agent down there in that contract without telling you upfront about it. And then when you go back and want to claim and say, but this house has some leaks and you guys didn't tell me about it, and you knew about them upfront, and then they're like, nope, we told you, we written that on the contract, you have signed an initial that you will agree to buy this property with some leaks, you know. So you need to write, I'm just making an example, you need to read your contracts, and you need to negotiate. Those are the most important things that I want you to know. If you like what I've been talking about, for more content like this, please don't forget to subscribe to my channel, like my videos, and do share with people that you think need to know this kind of content. You need to share with everyone, because there might be someone out there who wants to hear this kind of content, but they don't know where to start, and they don't know whom to ask. So please guys, do share. Much love. Cheers.